Imagine standing in the dead of night, the fire at your feet barely keeping the shadows at bay. Out there, in the darkness, eyes are watching you, predators that have ruled the earth for millions of years. Lions, saber-toothed cats, massive. Bears, all stronger, faster, deadlier than you. And yet, somehow, this is the moment when everything changes. Tonight, humans will stop being prey and start being the hunters the world fears. But how did we pull off the most unlikely coup in nature's history? Long before humans walked with the quiet confidence of top predators, we lived in constant fear. The open savannas, dense forests, and rocky cliffs of the ancient world were not ours. They belonged to creatures far stronger, faster, and deadlier than us. To them, we weren't hunters. We were meat. Imagine the daily reality. Stepping out of the safety of your small clan's shelter at dawn, scanning the horizon not for food, but for the glint of a predator's eyes. Lions and leopards could pounce from the grass in silence. Packs of hyenas could strip a carcass human or animal in minutes. Gigantic eagles might swoop down on children left unattended. Even in the trees, snakes waited, coiled in perfect patience. Our bodies were not built for battle. No fangs, no claws, no armor. A sprinting cheetah could overtake us in seconds. A charging rhinoceros could turn us to pulp. At night, the dark wasn't just empty. It was alive, and every sound meant possible death. Survival was not about bravery. It was about vigilance. Every step was calculated. We moved together because a lone human was an easy kill. We learned the behavior of predators not out of curiosity, but because failure to understand them meant the end. In this world, every sunrise was a gamble. We were small, fragile, and slow, yet somewhere in our minds, the first embers of ambition were starting to burn. To understand the odds stacked against our ancestors, you have to know the enemies they faced. The prehistoric world was a gallery of killers, each one specialized in turning living creatures into dinner. On the African plains, prides of lions weren't the only threat. Saber-toothed cats, with their massive curved fangs, could pierce bone and muscle in a single strike. Leopards were silent assassins, able to drop from trees directly onto their prey. Hyenas hunted in coordinated packs, testing human defenses with relentless patience, their bone-crushing jaws leaving nothing behind. Then there were the ambush predators. Crocodiles lurked in rivers, waiting for an unwary human to drink. Giant constrictor snakes could wrap around a body and suffocate it in minutes. Even the skies weren't safe. Giant birds of prey were capable of swooping down and snatching young children before anyone could react. But it wasn't just the big predators. Venomous snakes, swarms of insects carrying disease, and aggressive, territorial animals like wild boars and elephants could be just as deadly. The danger was everywhere, on land, in water, in the trees, and above our heads. What made it worse was that humans had no real defense except awareness. Our only hope was to notice danger before it noticed us. We weren't yet the hunters, we were the challenge in another creature's meal plan. And yet, a quiet change was beginning. Our ancestors weren't just running anymore. They were watching, learning, and remembering. Somewhere in those long, dangerous millennia, something shifted. Humans were still prey, but we were prey with potential. Our greatest weapon wasn't in our muscles, it was in our minds. The first signs of change were small but powerful. Early, humans began moving in larger groups, not just for companionship, but for protection. We posted sentries, those with sharp eyes and quick reflexes to watch the horizon while others gathered food or rested. Warning calls developed, simple but urgent sounds that told everyone, instantly, which predator was near and where it was. Coming from we learned patterns. Lions hunted mostly at night. Crocodiles struck when prey bent low to drink. By reading the behavior of animals, we could avoid the most dangerous moments, or even turn them to our advantage. Sharp stones, once just something to cut fruit or roots, began to take on a new role as weapons. A thrown rock might not kill a predator, but it could buy just enough time to escape. Fire, though rare and precious, was beginning to be understood. As more than warmth, it was a shield. Predators feared it. Even a small blaze at the camp's edge could keep the night's deadliest hunters at bay. These were just sparks, tiny acts of defiance in a world that still saw us as food. But they were the first steps toward something unthinkable. The day humans would turn from the hunted into the hunters. If there was a single turning point in the struggle between human and predator, it was fire. To our ancestors, fire wasn't just light, it was survival. And to the predators that once stalked us, it was the first sign that we were no longer an easy meal. At first, we didn't make fire, we stole it. A lightning strike or volcanic eruption might ignite a tree, and brave or desperate humans would carry the flame back to their camp, guarding it like treasure. Fire had to be fed, kept alive, and never allowed to die out, because no one yet knew how to create it on command. But once fire entered our world, everything changed. At night, its glow turned the darkness from a predator's hunting ground into a human sanctuary. The crackle of burning wood, the sudden burst of sparks, these were signals to lions, hyenas, and saber-toothed cats that the hunt would have to wait. Fire wasn't just defense, it was opportunity. It let us cook food, making it safer and more nourishing. It allowed gatherings after sunset, giving us more time to plan, share stories, and strengthen social bonds. Those late-night councils weren't just idle talk, they were the birth of strategy. And there was another advantage. Predators feared fire, but humans learned to carry it with them. Torches lit the way into dark caves, kept snakes at bay, and could be waved in the face of an advancing beast. For the first time, the balance was starting to tip. Once fire gave us safety, our attention turned to offense. Sharp stones had long been used to cut plants or scrape hides, but now, humans began shaping them for a different purpose. To hunt, the first true weapons were simple hand axes chipped from flint, heavy clubs made from hardwood, but their effect was enormous. Even a crude spear could give a human the reach to strike without getting within claws range. And unlike predators, who relied mostly on instinct, we had the ability to improve our tools over generations. Every chipped edge and balanced shaft was the result of trial, error, and shared knowledge. But weapons alone weren't enough. What set humans apart was coordination. A single hunter couldn't take down a zebra or antelope, but 10 hunters, each with a role, could. Some drove the prey into a trap or toward other hunters lying in wait. Others cut off escape routes, anticipating the animal's movements. This wasn't luck, it was planning. These strategies worked on predators too. When a leopard was spotted, it no longer meant immediate retreat. Instead, groups armed with spears and torches could drive it away, or, in some cases, kill it to protect the camp. Every successful hunt and every defended territory taught us the same lesson. We weren't bound to the role of prey. We could be something else, something dangerous. The first time our ancestors brought down a large animal, it must have felt like breaking a natural law. For hundreds of thousands of years, creatures like antelope, wild cattle, or even smaller predators had been too dangerous or too fast to challenge. But now, armed with fire, weapons, and teamwork, humans were no longer just scavengers picking at what other hunters left behind. They were taking life on their own terms. Persistence hunting became one of our earliest and most surprising strategies. We couldn't outrun most animals in a sprint, but we could outlast them. Tracking a wounded antelope for hours under the relentless sun, pushing it until exhaustion made it collapse, was something no other predator could do. It was slow, methodical, and brutally effective. These early victories weren't just about food, they changed the way humans saw themselves. Success bred confidence. Every time a hunt succeeded, it became easier to believe that we belonged among the hunters, not the hunted. Around the fire. At night, stories of bravery and skill replaced tales of fear. Children grew up seeing their elders not as prey animals, but as dangerous beings capable of taking on the wild. This shift in mindset was critical. The human brain began to plan not for escape, but for conquest. We were no longer waiting for predators to attack, we were starting to think about which ones we might challenge next. Once our ancestors realized they could outlast almost any animal, persistence hunting became a cornerstone of survival and a key to dominance. Unlike ambush predators, we didn't need surprise to succeed. Our advantage lay in endurance and relentless tracking. Under the scorching sun, most animals can only run at top speed for short bursts before overheating. Humans, with our ability to sweat and regulate body temperature, could keep moving for hours. A small hunting group could track a wounded or isolated animal over vast distances, following its footprints, scat, and broken vegetation. The chase didn't need to be fast, it needed to be steady. Eventually, exhaustion would bring even the strongest prey to its knees. But it wasn't just about killing for food, it was about claiming space. Once humans began hunting in open plains and defending waterholes or resource-rich areas, we were making a statement. This land is ours. Predators that once dominated those areas were pushed out, forced to seek food elsewhere or risk a deadly confrontation. Territory control also meant security. Camps placed on high ground allowed better visibility of approaching danger. Fire pits at the perimeter marked human presence, warning other creatures to keep their distance. Over time, the areas humans occupied became safer, not because predators couldn't reach them, but because they knew better than to try. We were no longer simply surviving in nature's kingdom. Piece by piece, we were taking it over. Once humans began claiming territory, the competition wasn't just with prey animals, it was with other predators that had ruled for millennia. Lions, leopards, hyenas, and wolves weren't just hunting partners in the ecosystem, they were direct rivals for the same food. Humans didn't always fight these predators head-on. Instead, we began using intelligence and planning to outcompete them. If a pride of lions brought down a zebra, humans would wait at a safe distance, watching. Once the lions had eaten their fill and retreated, humans armed with fire, noise, and numbers would move in to claim the rest. This was scavenging by intimidation, a tactic no other species used so deliberately. Over time, we grew bolder. Instead of waiting, we began driving predators off their kills. Torches, loud shouts, and a coordinated advance could overwhelm even the fiercest hunter. Spears and rocks made it dangerous for any predator to stand its ground. But the competition went beyond physical confrontation. We learned to track herds more efficiently than big cats and to hunt in ways that avoided the energy-wasting chases predators relied on. We set traps, ambushed animals at water sources, and planned hunts to coincide with seasonal migrations. This wasn't just survival, it was strategic domination. Rival predators began to lose ground, their hunting territories shrinking as humans took over prime feeding grounds. Slowly, the balance of power shifted. In places where predators once ruled without challenge, humans were becoming the ones to fear. As humans spread across continents, the ripple effect on other apex predators was undeniable. Species that had once thrived for millions of years began to vanish, not because of sudden climate changes or natural disasters, but because a new, intelligent competitor had arrived. In some regions, predators like the saber-toothed cat or the giant short-faced bear disappeared entirely. Others, like lions and wolves, retreated to the edges of human territories, surviving only where humans had yet to settle in force. The reason was simple: we didn't just hunt for survival, we hunted to eliminate threats and to secure resources for ourselves. Our ability to adapt to any environment made us an unstoppable force. In cold climates, we crafted warm clothing and shelters. In deserts, we stored water and traveled strategically. No predator could match our flexibility. And as our hunting skills improved, so did our efficiency. We took more game with less effort, leaving less for rival predators. This shift had profound consequences. The natural balance that had existed for millions of years tilted sharply. For the first time, one species, not the fastest, strongest, or largest, stood unchallenged at the top of the food chain. We had begun as prey, scattered and fearful. Now the very animals that once stalked us avoided our camps and fled at our approach. The age of living in constant fear was over. The age of human dominance had begun, and it would change the planet forever. Our story began with fragile, fearful creatures, clinging to survival in a world ruled by giants. We had no claws to tear, no fangs to pierce, no armor to shield us. Every day was a gamble, every night a test of endurance. But somewhere in that darkness, the human spark ignited, first in firelight, then in strategy, then in unshakable will. We learned to read the land, to anticipate danger, to turn weakness into strength. We built weapons not just to defend, but to conquer. We mastered endurance hunting, claimed territories, and drove away the predators that once owned them. And with every victory, our place in nature changed, until we no longer looked over our shoulders, but ahead, toward what we would take next. The day humans became the apex predator wasn't a single moment, It was 1,000 small triumphs across thousands of years. But the result was the same. The hunted became the hunter, and the balance of power shifted forever. And now, as the undisputed rulers of the food chain, we face a question our ancestors never had to ask. Will we use our dominance to protect the world we inherited, or will we become the very force that unravels it?